The story of Hades and Persephone. This story is rather simple, but it's powerful. For one, it shows a different perspective on the Greek god of death and how much his life was just as human as anyone else's. The story begins with our character, Hades. Now, Hades is not a particularly favored god in Greek standards. Even the gods above Olympus still deemed him as some sort of thing to be feared. Not really much else to say. He was feared because he was the king of the underworld. A lot of people saw him as cruel, unforgiving, hateful. But in actuality, that's simply not true. Hades was a rather generous god. He was fair and was neutral. He cared about his subjects and cared deeply about his wife. Now, what exactly do we know about this? One important detail that you need to understand is that Greek gods represented idealistic behavior of the Greek. They did not see women the same way that most modern day people will see women. For example, whenever the Greek gods did something horrible to a woman, it was simply because that was what was true at the time. So before I tell a story, you must understand that the Greek gods weren't representations of modern society. They were representations of what was really going on back in that day and age. That's an important detail. A lot of people believe that the Greek gods were horrible because we share different ideologies. That's actually the truth right there. We share different ideologies and they clash. The Greeks didn't hold the same value to women as modern day does. So let's begin with the story of Hades and Persephone. Hades was in his underworld, questioning, lamenting, and just overall sad. For you see, the subjects he ruled over didn't fill a void in his heart. He was extremely distraught. He longed for something that he couldn't put his finger on. He wanted to feel like there was something to his life, some reason to keep on going. Sure, he was an immortal god, but to him, it was no different than being dead. Hades sat on his throne, musing about what he should do. He just sat there. He had no real reason to keep on going. Love that was slowly fading. He wasn't worshipped like his brothers, Poseidon and Zeus, who got to rule over the earth and the heavens. Even though he was first born to Kronos, the world was his by birthright. But he did his job every day, and it began to weigh on him. He felt like there was something there, or something that should be there. Hades sat around for a while, until he spotted a very beautiful young woman. His heart began to pound with great pain. He knew that she was the one. He went to Zeus and asked the question. My dearest brother, who is that wonderful maiden? The one who... How do I describe this? The one who is in the fields of Demeter. Who is she? She is different, I can tell. The great god answered. That is Persephone, Demeter's daughter. My goodness. She is stunning. I don't know if I wish to wed to her. If I could have your blessing, of course. You are aware, right, that if Demeter finds out what you've done, she will be furious beyond belief. I know, but I can't. My heart aches for her. Please, Zeus, I'm begging you, let her be my bride. As god of gods, please, let her be my bride. Zeus sat on his throne. He began to stroke his beard and said, Very well. She is yours. You may take her to the underworld. Thank you, my lord. Thank you. He left Olympus. Hades felt so much pride in his heart. Felt so just filled with love. He went to Persephone and said, Greetings, my... Greetings. My name is Hades. I'm sure you've heard of me. Oh, yes, of course, Lord Hades. I know of you. Well, I was curious about something. Of course. Would you wish to come into the underworld with me? What are you asking? To be my bride, of course. The young maiden didn't know it yet. She had seen many atrocities done by her father, Zeus. She had seen many great things that he had done to the mortal women. And didn't know it yet, but this Hades, god of the underworld, was not like his brother, but was quite different. She refused at first, but Hades said, Well, forgive me for what I must do. You were promised to me by Zeus. He then opened the ground beneath the both of them, and Persephone began to scream as she began to slowly sink into the ground. A little bit later, Demeter arrived. Persephone? Persephone? Persephone! Where could you have gone, Persephone? She began to look violent. And then she asked around. They ran into the sun titan Helios. He said, quite plainly, Oh, that? Yeah. That was Hades. Hades? What could he possibly be doing with Persephone? I believe that it had something to do with Zeus. I mean, I don't know for certain, but that's what I'm told. Great. Just great. Hades has my daughter. Who knows what that horrible monster is doing to her? Maybe defiling her in ways that... Well, I can't imagine. I have no foresight in Hades. I have no foresight. Relax, Helios said. Listen, I understand your concern. Believe me, I do. But think about it like this. Hades is the death god. Persephone will be his queen. If you think about it like this, Hades is kind of the best god for her. Because with Persephone being the queen of the dead, she's greater than any god on the planet. Greater than Zeus to an extent. Because at the end, everyone becomes Hades' subject. So, yes, I understand the fear and the worry. But it's honestly not as bad as you think it is. But Demeter, stricken with grief and fear for her daughter, decided to neglect her duties. It was so sad that the world became cold. The flowers began to die. Above everything else, gods were not receiving daily sacrifices from the mortals down below. Zeus asked Hermes to retrieve Demeter, but she would not budge. She continued to wallow, waiting for the day that her daughter would return. But it simply didn't happen. When Hermes returned with the unfortunate news that Demeter would not return until her daughter was safely returned to her, Zeus then said, "Very well. Hermes, go down to the underworld. As a psychopomp, it should be quite simple for you to find Hades. Retrieve Demeter. Bring her back." Hermes nodded and traveled deep into the underworld, past Elysium, past Asmodean, and entered the palace of Hades. Hades, dressing his new bride in quite luxurious clothing, said, "Anything you wish, my darling." And Persephone returned. "Oh, yes, thank you. What? I'm confused, Hades. You have me quite confused." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've heard the horror stories of Zeus coming down to unsuspecting mortal women and defiling them. Why are you treating me with such great kindness?" "Well, it's rather simple, really. Because I do love you. I don't care about anything other than keeping you happy. Your happiness is all I'm worried about." Hermes interrupted and said, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but we got a little bit of a problem." "Hermes, what is the situation at hand? I am willing to do all I can." "Yeah, that's the thing. You probably will have to give up Persephone." He looked to his beloved bride and said, "Well, what do you mean?" "I mean, it's complicated, really. You know how we haven't been getting sacrifices, and there's like a lot more dead than there should be?" "Yeah." "Well, Demeter is refusing to let plants grow, and there's a never-ending winter until Demeter returns." Hades looked at his bride again and said, "Is this what you wish, my love?" "Well, yes. It would be nice to see my mother again." "Then take her. Take her back to her mother. But there is a slight problem. And what would that be? Hermes asked. You see, she ate some pomegranate. And Hermes, I'm sure you're well aware. Yeah, I know. Once you eat the food of the dead, you become something of the dead. Yeah, I know. We'll have to describe that to Demeter. This is going to be an interesting conversation. They both nodded in agreement. Come on, my love. Let's get you back home. When they returned to Demeter, she was so happy to finally be returned with her daughter. Zeus then did clarify, talking to Demeter in private, saying, Listen, I know this is rough, but you must understand the consequences of your daughter eating the fruit of the dead, explaining the situation in great detail, how Persephone cannot stay with the dead, but how she cannot stay on the planet. She must return to the underworld at regular intervals, otherwise she'd fade away from existence. A few months on the surface, and then a few months of Hades. Hades then said, before he returned back to his slumber, deep, deep below the earth, he said, Listen, Persephone, my love. No matter what, I will always look out for you. I will love you greater than any, God could or not. And you will be a queen of queens. And you will be highest above the dead. Demeter, know that your daughter is in safe hands, while she is with me. I will not let any harm come to her. Demeter said, Okay, but I still don't see how you could do such a thing. It was Zeus. He gave me permission to marry your daughter.